Hello, wonderful people. Welcome again to Bali, Indonesia, where I am filming this episode of my video blog from a rice paddy overlooking Canggu. I want to thank the farmer in advance for letting me borrow his rice paddy hut. And I'd love to read the next chapter of my book to you guys. It's called Family in the Age of Order. Again, this is a pamphlet that I wrote about dating and relationships in our modern world. And have decided to put this on YouTube so that I can have a discussion with you guys, have a collaboration. So I'll be putting questions down in the description below, as well as a copy of the chapter that I'm going to read to you. So at any time, feel free to comment, ask questions, make comments. Would love to interact with you about that to help me to write more and to fine-tune what I've written. One thing I failed to mention last time with my introduction video was you got to subscribe in order to get all these chapters coming in. I'll be hopefully filming these videos over the next 2 weeks or so. I want you guys to be able to process it slowly because it's a very, very chunky kind of topic we're talking about. So if you subscribe, then you'll get to be able to read those things as they come out. And I'm not so sure exactly what the schedule will be as far as the videos go because I'm going to be quite busy, but would love for you to subscribe. I know there's a quite complex process. It's not just you push the subscribe button. You push the subscribe button and then you push the bell and then the other bell. You'll figure it out, I'm sure. But that will ensure that you get the videos and that you're not wanting for more. Hey guys, I just downloaded this app called Big View, which allows me to read to the screen so I don't have to have my face all up in my phone when I'm reading to you. So without further ado, here is chapter 1 of As in the Days of Noah. Chapter 1, Family in the Age of Order. A few decades from now, if we don't already, when we look back on humanity's view of sexuality and procreation, history will be split in two, from before and after the birth control pill. In 1957, the pill came to the American market. It immediately took off and began making waves in the cultural undercurrents of society. The pill was not immediately legal to married women in all states until, in 1965, the Supreme Court case Griswold versus Connecticut changed that law. Later, in 1972, another court case, Eisenstadt versus Baird, made it legal for unmarried women to have access to the pill. In just 15 years, birth control went from taboo to mainstream. Birth control has always been around, but nothing was as effective and therefore widespread as the birth control pill. There weren't going to be legal battles about rubber condoms. One would have to go down to the public store to buy. The discreet birth control pill, boasting of extreme efficacy, doled out by the discretion of a doctor, was a force with which to be reckoned. Nothing has affected the change in our culture's view of sexuality more drastically and more quickly than the pill. The full consequences of the pill are just now bubbling to the surface. They are not fully realized, but need to be, if we are to live lives that enable others to thrive into the future. Pregnancy was always a helpful controlling factor on human sexuality. Before the pill, abortion, child sacrifice, or bastardization were always a controlling factor in the ties that were made between people. There are always going to be extreme consequences for going against society's norms. Besides the negative consequences of promiscuity, there was also a clear understanding that the natural state of the human individual was to be attached to another for life. Today, even writing that is a difficult endeavor for fear that it immediately alienates an audience. We consistently ignore that there is in fact pain in breakups that goes beyond the pain of getting your car stolen or your house burning down. We seem to ignore that we inflict as much pain on another as they inflict on us when a relationship doesn't work out. We don't realize that we are literally destroying ourselves internally over and over again without understanding that this whole thing could be avoided. In the process, the previous partner becomes all but dead to the individual. In a physical death of a loved one, those that are left behind at least get to have the closure of that person not being around. In the death of a relationship, that other person is still very alive, so there's no physical end to the grief process. There was a time when this was avoided. In the time before the birth control pill, people were much more sensible when it came to the joining of body, soul, and mind. The gender roles made it easy for the process to be initiated. We, to a fault, believe the old process to be void of freedom and a blight on equality. Though the process was exploited by bad actors, the idea of the way that happened can be argued was much healthier than the devastation we see today. There was the man that was able to make a decision that was based in the reality of the situation. A decision of whether or not to pledge his life, property, and reputation to the success or failure of the proposed arrangement. There was a freedom of a woman and her family to oblige the man's request or turn him down. Either way, the process reflected in a large respect the inherent worth of women. The woman was worthy of a specific plan of action with the stated aim of oneness until death. The process was often aided with the help of a community that held each party accountable. The community realized the difficulty of single individuals pledging their lives to each other in a meaningful way that wouldn't subvert the agreement. They saw that each individual, though they might have good intentions in the beginning, can be quickly dissuaded from their stated aims. They knew that individuals can become dishonest with themselves and others, including the future spouse, to be corrupting the relationship from the outset. Accountability was paramount, and so a plan was agreed upon by a third party that wasn't suffering from the mental illness we know today as being in love. The relationship that led to marriage was looked at with the same practicality as one looks at a field to be planted or a house to be built. They knew that one bent line in the field, there's a field right there, or one poorly chosen stone for a foundation would make for a terrible beginning of something that was believed to be immediately important. Deep down, I believe we still know it to be as important, except we have been calloused by years of experimentation and dating insanity. Being the institution by which individuals received their primary teaching about the meaning and purpose of life, the family was also considered to be the cornerstone of society. And as it went, so did the rest. The integrity of family formation was so important that traditions were expertly crafted to ensure its success from the beginning. Consequences of violating these traditions were self-evident again because of the absence of effective birth control measures. Individuals were much happier in their contributions to this order and in the purpose they felt in its continuation. Family in this age gave children a firm foundation as to how much they were loved. Children were a product not just of a biological union. Children were the result of a plan, from a responsible father and a complementing mother. Children understood themselves to be the first thought when their parents came together. The purity of the parents' love was unquestioned, and the children were raised to have the same value for their future spouses and children as well. The whole system was a positive feedback loop that ensured the transfers of mutual valuing through the generations. The family was the primary means by which people understood their value. The planning of that family from the beginning of the physical relationship with the help of the parents was a worthy sacrifice to ensure the unblemished nature of this love. Part of the reason we are so disconnected from this process is because of the constant breakdown and degradation of close-knit communities. The village has been replaced with the city. As more and more people live in it, people come together along very specific interests rather than being together primarily by the geography of the small town. It was in these small but tightly bound communities where everyone knew each other and everyone would make dreams of being with specific individuals years in advance. There wasn't any need for people to date around to figure out who people were. There wasn't as much temptation to push love connections past the point of no return without any commitment. With the advent of disconnected city life, along with the pill, there's now new definitions of how people should interact before commitments are made that are destructive to our futures. Dating apps exacerbate the disconnectedness from communities in which new relationships are formed. When two people come from two sets of social groups with little to no overlap, it's very difficult for the idea of accountability towards the process to take shape. Each individual might have someone that they are taking advice from, but it's rare that both parties find a single individual that can help guide them through making the biggest decision of their lives. Before the pill, in the age of order, the man would go to the father of the bride to be held accountable to a process. Now the father is somewhat of an afterthought in the dating process. Fathers do not instruct their children of the specific dangers men are victim to these days because they themselves are ignorant to them. The father is only mentioned here because we will see later how it is precisely the abdication of the parental roles that led us to where we are. It is not, however, entirely the responsibility of just parents to pursue the truth about our existence. It's not too late for our generation to pull out of the nosedive in which we are currently. Thanks a lot, guys. That was chapter 1. Hey guys, I'm back at my place now. Sorry if there was some audio issues there with me reading. But really, what I just wanted to ask was, how has this affected you guys personally? How do you think that the dating culture has affected you? Have you had success with it? Have you had failure? Do you think that the society, the way that society is and what's happened with birth control has affected you in a negative way or a positive way when it comes to your dating? I would love to hear your perspective and to know what you guys think about what I just wrote and maybe get more material for extending the chapter longer. Cool. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and looking forward to the next video sometime in the near future.